Welcome to your personalized deep dive into Army leadership.
Oh, cool.
We're going to be exploring the Army's own playbook.
Okay.
The Army Doctrine publication 622 called Army Leadership and the Profession.
Okay.
This document was published in July 2019.
Okay.
And it really lays out the Army's philosophy on what makes a great leader. And you might be surprised how relevant it is to any field.
Oh, interesting.
Even if you're not planning on enlisting anytime soon.
Okay.
It's
I'm excited to dive in.
So this document's packed with insights on character, decision-making, and building trust.
Yeah, that's great.
You'll see how these principles can really help you become a more effective leader, no matter what challenges you're facing.
Yeah.
So let's start with the foundation.
Okay.
The document kicks things off by defining the Army as a profession. And it's not just about combat skills.
Right.
It's about a deep commitment to American values.
Okay.
And a specific code of ethics.
So they emphasize trust right off the bat.
Yeah.
They talk about the importance of earning and maintaining the trust of the American people.
That's huge.
Yeah. Which is crucial for any organization, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, as I was reading this, I was thinking about how much trust matters in my own work.
Yeah.
When you have a team that trusts you, you can accomplish so much more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's,
And the document breaks down this idea of the Army profession into 5 key characteristics.
Okay.
All right, so we've got trust, honorable service, military expertise, stewardship, and esprit de corps.
I have to admit, esprit de corps sounds a bit intimidating.
Well, actually, it's a pretty simple idea.
Okay.
It's all about that shared sense of purpose you get when you're part of a team.
Right.
That pride in working together towards a common goal.
Yeah.
And the determination to persevere even when things get tough.
Right.
You know, like when you're facing a tight deadline at work and everyone pulls an all-nighter to get the project done.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That's a great example.
You can definitely feel that esprit de corps in those high-pressure situations.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the document goes on to connect these characteristics to specific behaviors.
Okay.
For example, they talk about how trust is built on expert knowledge and a commitment to continuous learning.
Right.
Think about it. You're much more likely to trust a doctor who stays up to date on the latest medical research.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And it applies to any field, really.
It does.
If you want people to trust your judgment, you need to demonstrate that you're constantly learning and growing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's honorable service,
Okay.
which boils down to acting ethically and responsibly in every situation.
Right.
It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And that ties into stewardship,
Okay.
which is all about using resources wisely and responsibly. I'm guessing that's especially important in the military.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Where lives are literally on the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's also relevant to any organization that has limited resources. It's about being mindful of how you're using your time,
Right.
your budget,
Yeah.
your people.
All those things matter.
Yeah.
So we've got trust, honorable service, expertise, stewardship, and esprit de corps.
That's right.
Those are some pretty solid pillars for any profession, if you ask me.
They are.
Yeah.
And they all flow directly from the Army ethic and values,
Okay.
which the document spends a lot of time unpacking.
Let's dig into that.
All right.
What's the core idea behind the Army ethic?
Well, it emphasizes both legal and moral motivations for conduct. They're not just saying follow the rules because we told you to.
Right.
They're connecting these values to the very foundations of our nation.
Okay.
The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, legal codes, the whole shebang.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's about a deeper sense of duty and responsibility, rooted in something bigger than just following orders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads into the Army values themselves.
Okay.
Loyalty, duty, respect, service, honor, integrity,
Wow.
and courage.
That's a lot.
7 core values that they expect every member of the Army to embody.
Yeah.
Not just in their professional lives,
Right.
but in everything they do.
In their personal lives as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting how these values tie back to that idea of trust we were talking about earlier. If you're living by these values, you're naturally going to be someone that people trust and respect.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It all builds on itself.
Makes sense.
And this focus on trust and values leads directly into how the Army defines good leadership.
Okay.
And for that, they've developed what they call the Army Leadership Requirements Model.
Okay, so tell me more about this model.
Sure.
How does it work?
Think of it like a blueprint for what the Army looks for in its leaders.
Okay.
It breaks down leadership into three main categories:
Okay.
character,
Yep.
presence, and intellect.
I like that they put character first. It seems like a pretty solid foundation for leadership.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
The document defines character as the sum of those qualities that make a person a distinct individual.
Hmm.
It's about making ethical decisions and having the courage to do what's right,
Right.
even when it's unpopular or puts you at risk.
Yeah.
They give the example of General Jonathan Wainwright,
Okay.
who was captured by the Japanese in World War II.
What happened to him?
Well, even in the face of defeat and imprisonment,
Wow.
he never gave up.
Oh, wow.
He continued to inspire his troops with his courage and his unwavering commitment to the Army's values.
Mm.
He became a symbol of resilience and integrity,
Yeah.
even in the toughest of circumstances.
That's a powerful example of how character can shine through, even in the darkest of times.
Yes.
So that's character. What about presence?
Presence is about how you carry yourself as a leader.
Okay.
It encompasses military and professional bearing,
Okay.
fitness, confidence,
Okay.
and resilience.
So it's about looking the part,
Yes.
but also being physically and mentally fit to handle the demands of leadership.
You got it.
Yeah.
They emphasize that fitness isn't just about being able to pass a physical test.
Right.
It's about maintaining your health
Okay.
so you can handle the stress of leadership
Right.
and be there for your team when they need you.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, you can't lead effectively if you're constantly burned out
Yeah.
or struggling with your own well-being.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's confidence.
Yeah.
The document talks about how a confident leader inspires trust in their team, but it's not about arrogance or bluster. It's about a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your stuff
Yes.
and being prepared to handle whatever challenges come your way.
Exactly.
They talk about projecting self-confidence while being mindful of the gravity of the situation.
Yes.
So it's about finding that balance between confidence and humility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have resilience.
Yeah. Okay.
This is all about the ability to bounce back from setbacks,
Right.
to learn from your mistakes,
Yeah.
and keep moving forward.
Everyone makes mistakes.
We all face challenges and failures in our lives.
That's true.
Resilient leaders are the ones who can dust themselves off and keep fighting for their goals.
So we've got character, presence. What was that last one?
Intellect.
Oh, okay.
This one's all about the mental horsepower you bring to the leadership table.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Okay.
What are the key components of intellect according to the Army?
They break it down into 5 key areas.
Okay.
Mental agility, sound judgment,
Okay.
innovation,
All right.
interpersonal tact,
Okay.
and expertise.
I'm already feeling smarter just hearing those words.
Okay.
But let's break those down one by one.
Okay.
What exactly is mental agility?
It's all about being flexible in your thinking
Okay.
and adapting quickly to changing circumstances. Like when a project goes off the rails
Right.
and you have to think on your feet to come up with a new plan.
So it's about being able to pivot when things don't go according to plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's sound judgment,
Okay.
which is crucial for making good decisions. The document quotes General Omar Bradley, who said, "Judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgments."
Wow.
That's a great quote.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
It's so true.
It is.
We often learn the most from our mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then innovation.
Okay.
This is about constantly seeking ways to improve, to come up with new and creative solutions to problems.
Right.
They see innovation as the antidote to complacency.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's about never being satisfied with the status quo
Right.
and always pushing the boundaries of what's possible. I
Okay.
like that. It's about having that growth mindset,
Yes.
that desire to constantly learn and improve.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's interpersonal tact, which is all about being aware of other people's emotions
Right.
and knowing how to communicate effectively in different situations.
So it's about being able to read the room,
Yes.
knowing when to be direct and when to be more diplomatic.
Exactly.
It's about building strong relationships
Yes.
and fostering a positive team dynamic.
That's right.
And finally, we have expertise.
Right.
This one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
It's about having that deep knowledge and skill that comes from experience, training, and education. But they emphasize that becoming an expert is a lifelong journey.
It is.
Army leaders are expected to constantly be learning and expanding their knowledge base.
That's right.
So it's about being a lifelong learner,
Yes.
always striving to improve your skills and knowledge.
Absolutely.
Now, we've covered the 3 attributes of an Army leader: character, presence, and intellect.
Yep.
But the Army leadership requirements model doesn't stop there.
Okay.
It also outlines 6 core competencies that bring those attributes to life. I'm intrigued. All right. Tell me more about these competencies.
Well, they're grouped into 3 categories.
Okay.
Leads, develops, and achieves.
It sounds like they're really painting a complete picture of what it means to be an effective leader.
They are.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that these competencies offer some valuable insights for anyone who wants to step up their leadership game,
Okay.
regardless of their profession.
I'm ready to dive in.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's start with that first category: leads.
All right.
What does the Army have to say about what it truly means to lead?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because the Army goes beyond just giving orders or barking commands.
Right.
They argue that true leadership is about influence.
Okay.
It's about inspiring and motivating others to achieve a shared goal.
So it's more about getting people on board with your vision rather than forcing them to comply.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the document makes a really interesting distinction between compliance and commitment. Compliance is simply following orders because you have to.
Right.
But commitment is something much deeper.
Yeah.
It's about believing in the mission
Okay.
and going above and beyond what's required.
So it's about getting people to buy into the why behind the what.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
And to illustrate this point,
Okay.
they bring up General Eisenhower's famous D-Day speech to his troops. It's a masterclass in providing purpose, direction, and motivation.
I remember reading that speech in school.
Yeah.
It was incredibly powerful.
It was.
You could really feel the weight of the moment
Yes.
and the importance of their mission.
And that's exactly what great leadership does.
Yeah.
It connects people to something larger than themselves.
Right.
It inspires them to achieve extraordinary things.
I bet there are a lot of lessons in that speech that could be applied to leadership in any field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what's so fascinating about this deep dive. Even though we're exploring an Army document,
Right.
the principles are universal.
Yeah.
They can help anyone become a more effective and inspiring leader.
It's amazing how much we can learn from this.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we've covered kind of the foundation of Army leadership, their values, their model for what makes a great leader. But how does all of this translate into action? Out in the field.
Right.
I imagine it's one thing to talk about leadership principles in a classroom,
Right.
but quite another to put them into practice when the bullets are flying.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And the document doesn't shy away from the very real challenges that Army leaders face in their operational environment.
What kind of challenges are we talking about here?
Well, for starters, they acknowledge the immense pressure of leading in harm's way, making life or death decisions, knowing that your choices can have profound consequences for your team.
Right.
That's not something everyone can handle.
Yeah. As we're talking about this, I'm thinking about how even in a less intense environment, like a business setting, leaders still have to make tough calls that can impact people's livelihoods, their careers.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah.
But it's still pressure.
It is. It is. That's a great point.
No.
And the document emphasizes the need for resilience in these kinds of situations. You have to be able to make those tough choices, deal with the fallout, and then bounce back and keep moving forward.
So resilience is key.
Yeah.
What other challenges do they highlight?
Well, they talk a lot about the impact of technology.
Okay.
On the one hand, technology has revolutionized warfare, giving leaders unprecedented situational awareness and the ability to coordinate operations on a global scale.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Right. But on the other hand, technology can also create new challenges.
Okay.
They talk about the potential for technology to disconnect leaders from the reality on the ground.
Interesting.
It's easier to make decisions from a distance when you're not the one facing the immediate risks. All right, I see what you mean.
Sure.
It's like the difference between sending an email and having a face-to-face conversation.
Exactly.
Sometimes that personal connection makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
And the document stresses the importance of leaders staying grounded, even when they're relying heavily on technology. They need to actively seek input from those who are closest to the action, the folks who are in the trenches, so to speak.
So it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between leveraging technology
Right.
and maintaining that human element of leadership.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Yeah.
And then they delve into something that they call counterproductive leadership.
Okay.
This is a fascinating section because it's all about identifying and addressing leadership behaviors that can actually harm the team and the mission.
Oh, wow. So it's about recognizing when leadership goes wrong.
Precisely. They break it down into different categories.
Yeah.
Abusive leadership,
Mm-hmm.
ineffective leadership,
Okay.
and corrupt leadership.
What are some examples of these types of leadership?
Well, abusive leadership is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's about creating a toxic environment through bullying, humiliation,
Right.
or creating unnecessary conflict.
I've unfortunately seen that kind of leadership in action,
Yeah.
and it's never pretty.
No,
It just demoralizes the team and creates a culture of fear and distrust.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's ineffective leadership,
Okay.
which can be more subtle, but just as damaging.
Right.
This could involve a lack of planning or organization,
Okay.
poor communication,
Mm-hmm.
or an inability to provide clear direction.
So it's not always about intentional harm.
No.
It could just be about incompetence or a lack of awareness.
Right. And sometimes even well-intentioned leaders can fall into these traps.
I see.
That's why self-awareness is so important.
Right.
You need to be able to honestly assess your own strengths and weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to ask for feedback,
Okay.
even when it's tough to hear.
And then there's corrupt leadership.
That one sounds pretty serious.
It is.
Yeah.
Corrupt leadership involves dishonesty, misuse of resources, or favoritism.
Mm-hmm.
It's about putting personal gain ahead of the mission and the well-being of the team.
So it's about a breach of trust
Yes,
and a violation of ethical principles.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the document makes it very clear that these kinds of behaviors are completely unacceptable
Right.
and can have a devastating impact on an organization.
Okay, so we've talked about leading in harm's way,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges of technology,
Yes,
and the dangers of counterproductive leadership.
right.
What other aspects of the operational environment do they cover?
Well, there's a fascinating discussion about the role of media in modern warfare.
Okay.
They point out that media coverage can have a huge impact on public perception of the military and its actions,
Right.
which can influence political decisions and support for military operations.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
We live in a 2047 news cycle,
we do.
and social media amplifies everything.
Right,
And they also talk about how the enemy can use media to their advantage,
right.
spreading propaganda and disinformation.
So leaders need to be media savvy,
Yes.
both in terms of communicating effectively with the public and in terms of protecting their troops from misinformation and manipulation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then they touch on the challenges of leading in joint and multinational environments.
Okay.
This is when the Army is working with other branches of the military
Right.
or with forces from other countries.
I imagine that can get pretty complicated.
It can.
Yeah.
Trying to coordinate operations with people from different cultures and backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they stress the importance of cultural awareness and sensitivity,
Okay.
being able to understand and respect different perspectives and ways of doing things.
So it's about building bridges and finding common ground,
Yes,
even when there are cultural differences.
exactly.
And communication is key.
Absolutely. They even suggest that leaders in multinational settings might need to learn some basic phrases in the languages spoken by their partners.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It is.
It shows a real commitment to fostering collaboration and understanding.
It does.
Yeah.
And then they talk about another challenge that's often overlooked,
Yeah.
operational stress.
That's a big one.
It is.
Yeah, I imagine the constant pressure and the potential for danger
Right.
can take a real toll on people's mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they emphasize the responsibility of leaders to create a supportive environment
Okay.
where soldiers feel comfortable talking about their struggles and seeking help when they need it.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the importance of building unit cohesion,
Okay.
creating a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose
Right.
that can help people get through tough times.
So it's about fostering a culture of support and resilience
Yes.
where people feel like they can lean on each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they also talk about the importance of debriefing after traumatic events, giving soldiers the space to process what they've been through
Mm-hmm.
and to seek help if needed.
It sounds like they're really taking a holistic approach to well-being,
They are.
recognizing that mental health is just as important as physical health.
Yes,
That's fascinating.
it is.
Oh.
And they even mention the importance of preparing soldiers for the psychological challenges of combat
Okay.
before they're even deployed.
So it's about mental training as well as physical training?
Yes,
That's fascinating.
it is.
Okay.
And that leads us to the final section of the document,
Okay.
which focuses on organizational and strategic leadership.
So we're zooming out a bit,
Yeah.
looking at the bigger picture of Army leadership.
That's right.
Okay.
These higher levels, leadership is less about direct interaction with troops.
Right.
And more about setting a vision for the entire organization
Okay.
and guiding it towards its goals.
So it's about thinking strategically,
Yes.
making decisions that impact thousands of people, and navigating complex systems and processes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the document emphasizes the importance of clear communication, resource management,
Right.
and building relationships, both within the Army and with external partners.
It's about being able to see the forest for the trees.
Yes.
Understanding how all the different parts of the organization fit together.
Right.
And making sure everyone is working towards the same goals.
You got it.
Yeah.
And one of the key takeaways from this section is the importance of leader development.
Okay.
They talk about the need for senior leaders to invest in the growth and development of their subordinates, preparing them to take on future leadership roles.
It's like they're creating a pipeline of talent,
Yes.
ensuring that the Army has a strong leadership core for years to come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is how they tie all of this back to the Army profession and ethic we talked about earlier.
It's like a circle closing.
Yeah.
It starts with the foundation of the profession.
Yeah.
And it ends with a reminder of the values and responsibilities that underpin it all.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They're emphasizing that effective leadership isn't just about tactics or strategies,
Right.
or even just achieving goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's about character, integrity,
Right.
and a deep commitment to serving something larger than yourself.
And that's a powerful message that resonates far beyond the battlefield.
It does.
Yeah.
And it leads us to a question that I'd like you, our listener, to ponder.
Yeah.
How do these Army leadership principles apply to leadership outside of the military context? Because
Okay.
we've talked about leadership in the context of combat,
Yeah.
of life or death decisions. But, how about the challenges of leadership that you face every day?
Right.
Whether it's in the boardroom, the classroom,
Yeah.
or even just leading a team of volunteers for a community project.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
We've uncovered some really powerful ideas here, from the emphasis on character and integrity.
To the importance of adaptability and resilience.
For sure.
I'm wondering, as someone who's navigating their own leadership journey,
Yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways that you can apply to your own life, your own work?
Well, think about those three attributes we've discussed. Character, presence, and intellect. What do those look like in your world?
It's an interesting challenge, right?
It is.
To take these concepts, which have been shaped by the demands of the military,
Right.
and translate them into something that's relevant to your own unique circumstances.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What does it mean to lead with character in your workplace?
right.
How do you cultivate presence in a meeting or during a presentation?
Yeah.
How do you leverage your intellect to inspire and motivate your team?
Those are some great questions to consider.
Yeah.
And then there are those 6 core competencies: leads, develops, achieves.
Yes.
How do those play out in your day-to-day interactions?
Because the truth is, whether you're leading a platoon or a project team,
Right.
the fundamentals of leadership remain remarkably consistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There's a common thread that runs through all of these different contexts.
there is.
It's about integrity. It's about clear communication.
Yeah.
It's about fostering a culture of growth and learning.
For sure.
And it's about having the courage to make tough decisions and the resilience to keep moving forward, even when things get tough.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
This document emphasizes that effective leadership isn't just about tactics or strategies,
Right.
or even just achieving goals. It's about the human element.
Okay.
It's about building trust, inspiring others, and creating a shared sense of purpose
Yeah.
that allows everyone to thrive.
That's something I think we can all aspire to, regardless of our role or our title.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So as you navigate the challenges of leadership in your own life, I hope you'll draw inspiration from these timeless principles we've explored today.
I hope so too.
And I hope you'll find, as I have, that the Army's wisdom on leadership offers valuable insights for anyone who wants to make a positive impact on the world,
Right.
no matter how big or small their stage may be.
Well said.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course, my pleasure.
Until next time.